And we're live. Welcome to the Lakers Late Night Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin. I am joined by Harrison Fagan and special guest of Sacktown Royalty. I forgot your. I never even asked your last name. I'm a terrible host. Okay, I'm
No, you're a fine host.
Royalty.
You're a fine host and a fine man. My name is Kamani Okira. I'm not actually a writer at Sacktown Royalty. I am a photographer, but I have dabbled in editorial here and there.
I was going to ask you about that because I don't think there are very many blog sites that have their own photographer. Like, how's that relation? Like, how did that come about even?
There's my mentor in this was a man named James Ham, who's the CSN insider for the Kings now. He started a blog called Cowbell Kingdom, which was the ESPN True Hoop blog, and so they had photographer access, and I've been doing that for 3 years. And this season I had switched to Vox and Sacktown Royalty as the opportunity came up, and there's it's been a good relationship so far. Really respectful, and it's Sacramento, so as of right yet, we're not exactly. I'm not exactly being told to not take photos, so that's kind of where we're at.
That's pretty awesome, though. I mean, like I said, I don't think there are very many blog sites that have their own official photographer, so that's a really cool tidbit for Sacktown Royalty and everybody who reads that blog. Really good blog out there. I'm also joined by Harrison, as always. Harrison, I thought tonight was one of the more forgettable games that we'll watch the Lakers play this season. I honestly, legitimately forgot everything about this game, so sorry, everybody.
There's a game tonight?
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, no, it was not the best game. It was the Lakers kept getting close a couple times, but you just never really got that sense that it was a sustainable run. It's when Brandon Bass is dunking on everyone, and that's how you're getting back into the game. You just know that that's not going to continue once the Kings stop effing around and put their starters back in.
I thought it was funny because it was, the Lakers went on a short run, and D'Angelo Russell looked like a world beater out there, and you realize, oh, that's right, he's playing against Darren Collison and not DeMarcus Cousins. And then Rajon Rondo and DeMarcus Cousins come back into the game, and it was just, yeah, that's right. They're way better than anybody on the Lakers.
He's such a good passer, but it's fun. The Lakers have so few actual threats that even if he sets up like a guy like Clarkson on a perfect cut, there are 3 Kings in the paint there just walling it off, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the Kings are especially intimidating, I would say, at the rim, right? Come on, like that's.
Oh yeah, they're big.
Where they're just not only is DeMarcus, obviously long and he can get up there at the rim, but he's so big, and then Willie Cauley-Stein, similar kind of thing going on there.
And then they can slide Rudy or Omri to the 2 and run a huge lineup, and just kind of out rebound you and out bully you for the ball. It's a really crazy dynamic team that I agree with you for what you said before the show. I think they're going to make the playoffs too. And I hope that they give the Warriors a run for their money. I think that'd be a fun series. So yeah, no, they're a big team.
Yeah, the interesting thing about them being a big team is that for the roster construction is interesting in itself, but the fact that they built it that way with George Karl as coach, who's known for being kind of a small ball guy, but they're big at every position, and I think it's interesting to me that he's adjusting his philosophies to play to the roster strengths rather than, you see some coaches that are very set in their system, and they're going to continue to play it regardless of results.
Some other coaches. We're not naming anybody in particular. Other coaches.
Some coaches,
Well, George Karl's a Hall of Fame coach, so he's had all sorts of dynamic lineups throughout his career, and this is definitely a challenge, I think, from his perspective. But he's having fun with it.
Yeah, The question I had coming in, I didn't even write it down, but at what point do we get the George Karl, DeMarcus Cousins buddy cop? Like, or is like George Karl can be the aged sheriff with Rajon Rondo and DeMarcus Cousins as like the buddy cops that like report to him and stuff. That needs to happen.
I can't see it, but all the power to you if you can. I think I think DeMarcus would kind of run away from any kind of movie where him and George Karl would have to police anybody.
I would tend to agree. All right, so we'll really briefly go over the game. DeMarcus Cousins was a man amongst boys. 36 points, 16 rebounds, on 13 to 22 shooting, 10 to 12 from the line. He boasts a plus 26, and then Rajon Rondo has a very Rajon Rondo game where he goes 11 points, 17 assists, 5 rebounds, and he plays with a plus 32. That pretty much sums up how the game went, right? Like that's all you really need to know from the game.
Absolutely. Goodness. DeMarcus is just a fun player to watch. I think no matter what team a player of that skill is on, you have to enjoy it when they come into your building and play like that.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
But this year especially, by stretching his game out to the three-point line, he's become. I don't know if he could, if before the season, if he was playing the way he was last year without that three-point shot, I don't know if you build around him the way you can, but he's incredible. He's kind of flipped my opinion on him. Harrison, like we said, it was a really boring game, just from the Lakers side of it, and then we'll move on to the larger issues, trades and the good old rivalry days, those good old days. But for me, it was especially notable how bored the Lakers looked with their sets. I tweeted out a couple times today that they would go into their sets. I equated it to a group of killer whales that are getting ready to go after their trainer. They just looked they looked really bored and really bummed every time Byron asked them to do something. That might be an extreme one, but did you notice anything to that?
Well, we're 42 games in now, 43.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're still running the same stuff. They still have the same personnel. They're using mostly the same rotations that they've been using for the past 20 or so games. They haven't worked then, and so it's probably hard to motivate yourself to continue to run these same sets that haven't been working.
We'll get them this time.
Yeah, it's like, guys, we've just been getting unlucky. It's going to flip. We just need a larger sample size. There just aren't that many adjustments being made. Have you noticed anything notable?
Not on my end. I mean, you thought for a bit, hey, Tariq Block came in, and hey, there's some energy, and then Byron Scott.
He played well enough that they're like, oh, we need to bench this guy.
No, it was like Tariq Black comes in and gives energy. Like that's what he brought to the game, and Byron said he wasn't playing with enough energy. I do want to know this because the Kings early on in the season, before the season even started, there was some talk about, hey, will George Karl even make it to the season? He and Cousins aren't getting along, and then there's the whole Ty Lawson tweeting the snake within the grass, or when you cut the grass, you start to see the snakes. Like you saw all that going on. Was there a point where you saw, the relationship start shifting in a more positive direction?
Well, I'll tell you what, I never saw it in a negative light at all. The Kings, it's interesting. Being this close to the team, there's a certain amount that I can't say, but I definitely think the Kings are kind of a low-hanging fruit in terms of the national NBA media, meaning that certain narratives are easier to jump on than others, right? And the relationship with DeMarcus and George and Rajon and George, I think got overplayed. I think a lot of narratives about the Kings get overplayed. I honestly think that the personalities on the team are more interesting in the text and the press than they are in person. So, I don't know if that's a satisfying answer, but
no. All I ask for is honesty, and no, it's good to get someone closer to the situation that offers that perspective. Why then do you think because it's a really cool relationship that I see now between DeMarcus and Rajon. Based on they look extremely close. They have very.
It's like the weirdest combo that you never would think would work, or you wouldn't think to put together, but they've somehow become, like, it seems like best friends.
Well, what I would say is that it's the kind of thing that you don't think would go together, and then they get together and it works, and then you think, well, yeah, I guess that would make sense, because they're just hyper competitive. I think that's the biggest thing that those guys have in common. Is there anything deeper than that? That is it just two guys that got sick of getting kicked around and they can relate with that? Is there any of that going on when Bookie and Rajon are get together?
I think that's what drew Rajon to the Kings in the first place. I mean, you have Rudy Gay and DeMarcus Cousins, both kind of kings of negative headlines, if you will, and I think that created a oh, come on, throw me under the bus for that one. I think it kind of created a dynamic situation for him, and it's definitely worked in their favor. And Kings fans and some of the people in the press who are paying attention really understand that it's more of a defensive duo that they form. They really cover the floor defensively in terms of on-the-ball defense, communication, and rebounding. There's not a lot missed between those two. So I think that's where they have the most impact, is on the defensive side of the ball, and then that culminates in the offense. And Rajon just knows where to get DeMarcus the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that you could never say about Rondo, is that he doesn't know where to, like for all of his faults last year, he was still a great passer. He still is. He knows exactly where. I think everyone on the court wants the ball always. It's probably a little bit to do with his OCD tendencies and all those like kind of interesting stories that you hear about his personality.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that with the Kings on the court today, it was every time, especially with a shooter, you really notice it with a shooter more than anybody else, where if they catch the ball in rhythm, their shot just looks better going up, and then eventually through the follow-through. Whereas you watch guys on the Lakers, when it isn't, D'Angelo making the pass, if it's a post player making the pass out to a wing shooter, you start to see, all right, somebody had to catch the ball way out here. I'm not sure what's going on there. You see shooters have to take a shot or a pass from outside their body and then shoot the ball, catching it like that. Speak about Rondo's ability there. I'm getting your call.
His ability to find spots is uncanny. I think that for one thing, it kind of interrupts the defensive pace of the other team. Because he's just so herky-jerky with his own movements. And then before you know it, the ball's whipped around into a corner. You didn't even know there was a player that made a back cut there. So, and you don't see Rondo looking that way. So he's got a great instinct for where people are moving, where people are going to be, and he also tells them where to go. So that's the other part. Yeah. That's kind of like, I think it's pretty obvious. He's very communicative with his team. He just tells people where to go.
Yeah, Harrison, did you watch? I mean, there was the little quote that we made fun from briefly about D'Angelo Russell trying to be Rajon Rondo, which doesn't make much sense. But just as a passer,
yeah, I saw someone compare. Who will remain nameless, but say a lot of people have always said that D'Angelo Russell could be the next Rajon Rondo. I don't think that anybody's ever said that.
I've never heard that in my life.
I don't think I've ever heard that comparison before that sentence. But yeah, he's not Rajon Rondo. He's already, I think, a better shooter than Rondo is, and so they're different there. And he's not as active of a defender, at least not yet. Rondo's a much more active defender, even though he does have a tendency to kind of vault watch sometimes and all that stuff that you see from like players that kind of make more of their bones on the offensive end. But he when he's engaged, he's a very good on-ball defender.
Right.
And we haven't really seen that from D'Angelo yet. He's shown flashes, but he just hasn't been great on that end.
I don't think D'Angelo is the athlete that Rondo is. I don't think Rondo gets enough credit for how athletic he can be, especially laterally. He's very shifty. He's very good using his length. His arms, he's extraterrestrial.
Well, it helps to have that your arms are longer than your body. Like,
yeah, he literally picks up dust when he walks just on the sidewalk on his arms. It's pretty incredible. All right, so let's go ahead and shift a little bit here because I saw the stat today that the Sacramento has beaten the Lakers 6 times in a row now, including tonight. Which is pretty incredible given the history going on there. We'll get to the rivalry in a bit. So but I do find it interesting. The Lakers have some guys that have kind of popped up in a couple circles every so often about trade rumors. Brandon Bass being how professional he is and trying to slide over and play the 5. I asked you this before the show, and you gave an interesting answer. Are you going to stick with your previous answer?
Well, I guess now that you called me out on it, probably not. But we can talk about it. It's funny.
Yeah, no. If there was a Laker on the trade market that you could see adding to the Kings fold, just based off of fit too, because not all the Lakers actually fit what they'd be trying to do. Who would you go with?
I would have to say Ryan Kelly, but I mean, I know y'all think he's a soft almond. So,
it's the thing with Ryan Kelly that's been tough, and it's with you could basically say this about any damn Laker, but you can with Ryan Kelly, he's been played. He played so long completely out of position, and then he comes in and he starts playing his actual position. So you think, all right, maybe that'll help, but he's playing his position in a broken system, so you don't really know what he would add. It wouldn't shock me at all to see Ryan Kelly go to the San Antonio Spurs and become like Boris Diaw 2.0. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest. So yeah, it's not. It doesn't. I laugh because Ryan Kelly's the butt of so many jokes out here, and it honestly just took me by surprise when you brought him up. But yeah, it doesn't. He's a tall guy who can shoot.
He's got good defensive position as well. I see he's in position. He's just not a very big guy. He can shoot. I think if he's in a system where he's not relied upon to do what he's relied upon to do for the Lakers, which I don't even know what anybody's relied upon to do for the Lakers. It doesn't make any kind of sense.
We have no idea.
I don't know that they know.
I don't think Byron knows.
I think they just get told, tough it, man up, and this isn't the playground. And
yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's interesting that Jason Kidd is a better coach than Byron Scott?
Oh, I mean, we kind of knew that, considering Jason Kidd wanted Byron Scott fired, so it shouldn't shock that many people that it would be almost hypocritical if Jason Kidd came out and was a worse coach than Byron Scott, and he wanted him fired so badly. But go ahead though. Where would you see him fitting? Because you already have Omri Caspi, who plays a similar position.
Absolutely.
Rudy Gay plays the 4 in, I would say, all your best lineups, right?
I think so.
So where would you? Because it's kind of tough. Kelly can't really play the 3, but where would you see Kelly fitting in? Just spot up shooting occasionally, I guess.
I mean, they're kind of mentioned around the league in rumors for Ryan Anderson, so I think that it'd be a similar role to that. And I think in any trade that you get for like Ryan Anderson, Rudy Gay would have to go the other way anyway. And so there would be some need to add some shooting regardless. So that's kind of what I was thinking. For the Kings' sake, I hope that they don't make any big moves. I think that they have a nice, solid core with that personality that we were talking about earlier that can definitely mesh when it comes to the adverse moments in the season. So, which are coming up. I mean, they're getting to that grinded-out schedule. They're going to be on the road a lot for January and February or after the All-Star break, and we'll see what they can do. But Ryan Kelly, I think I don't know what they'd give up for him. I mean, I can't. That's why I can't take it seriously because I just don't see anything going out from the Kings that like anybody would want to go out.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Is that they don't. I mean, maybe
James Anderson. You want James Anderson for Ryan Kelly?
Oh, I'd take a ham sandwich for Ryan Kelly at this point. But It's more so. I mean, Harrison, you can speak to this a little bit too. I'm killing Ryan Kelly. I tried to be nice about Ryan Kelly, but
you killed Kelly.
Man, that's my bad, Kelly. But with the Lakers' last two trade deadlines, you had a whole bunch of guys that their chances of coming back to the Lakers weren't as high as you'd like. And for me, both the last two trade deadlines, I was pulling my hair out, just saying, trade them, just send them out, get whatever you can possibly get for them. Do you think you could get anything for Ryan Kelly? I'm worried.
The Lakers were trying over the summer. They couldn't find any takers. And then, interestingly enough, when I was covering the Defenders, there was some talk that the coach, Casey Owens, spoke about that the guys can come down and get minutes in the D-League. They can come down and develop. They can build trade value. And that third thing really stuck out to me, because I don't know that necessarily means that that's what he was told they were sending them down for, but they kept sending down Tariq Black and Ryan Kelly, and Ryan Kelly, they were trying to trade the entire offseason, I think. There were rumors about him. Mm-hmm. And he's lit it up in the D-League. He's definitely been featured with the Defenders, and rightfully so. He looks like an MVP candidate down there. Yeah, and he might win MVP of the D-League if he played down there full time. He's just in this weird spot where he's way too good for the D-League, but his weaknesses really get accentuated at the NBA level, especially seemingly with this team.
Well, the athleticism at the NBA level is just extraordinary, and I think that's where that weakness gets really.
That's the thing, is he's a really good rim protector in the D-League. He averages, I think, like 2 blocks down there.
Well,
a game. He does a good job. He's smart, and he has a good sense of positioning, and he's good at getting himself in the way. He's just, his lateral quickness isn't quite there for NBA level point guards, where he can slide over and cut them off.
Mm-hmm. So I would guess then, Kimani, I'll come back to you about the Kings. Now, I'm in terms of rooting for football, I'm a Vikings fan, and I'll save my drinking for off camera when I think about Blair Walsh, but. My favorite, or this Vikings team will go down as one of my favorites of all time, because I didn't anticipate that they would actually be this good. They won a division. I didn't see that coming at all. Is there some of that going on with this Kings team that, they had the pieces, they might be pretty good, but I would say I'd put them in the playoffs right now. If they do get to the playoffs and they make a little noise against the Golden State Warriors, do they take on that kind of vibe, do you think, from the fan base?
Oh yeah, I think they're probably the next coming of the Memphis Grizzlies of a few years back. The Grindhouse Grizzlies. I think
that's funny because they have Rudy Gay too.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of maybe that chip on the shoulder just comes with them, and it's a fun team to watch when they take themselves seriously, and that's kind of, I think, the frustration that Rajon and DeMarcus share a lot of the time, and Rudy to a lot of extent, but not visibly so, is when the team doesn't take itself seriously on the defensive end. So they struggle and they lose to games. They lose games like the Sixers at home. So it's bad.
That was an interesting one.
Sometimes it's rough. Yeah, sometimes it's rough.
All right, so we'll move on to Boogie then. Good segue here. He is, I would say, one of the more polarizing guys in the league right now. I think that's pretty safe to say. Even myself, I go back and forth on how I feel about him. Sometimes I think, all right, you can build you might be able to build a championship team around him. Sometimes I think the game has passed up the teams built around a center winning titles. Harrison, you and I talked about this last night. How do we frame it? That I don't think in the next 5 years.
Oh, you said you don't think in the next 5 to 10 years that a team will win a championship with a center as its featured option and highest paid player.
Right. And that's my concern with Boogie. Is that do you think that's a logical concern, or do you think that's Boogie's the kind of player who he's talented enough to lift that kind of situation up?
I think that's his highest aspiration. I think his his personal brand and also just who he is, his personality, is a very loyal person. He thinks he should have been number one in his draft class. That's what he thinks. And being number 5 and being with the team that took him number 5 and making sure that that team gets to be the best it could potentially be is really important to him. It all is part of his journey as an NBA player. So it makes sense to me that the Kings stick with him because it's getting better. He's becoming a really good defensive leader. Even with lapses in the season, and every player has lapses. I'm not trying to make excuses for the man, but I think that because of who he is, there's a spotlight that's shone on him. But also, it is a heavy investment, like you said. So.
Mm-hmm. I was curious to ask you because that's the thing for me. I think he's no doubt talented enough to be the best player on a championship team. But there's all this attitude stuff, and a lot of people say that's just his reputation now, so anytime that something comes up that reinforces it, people just file that away as, oh, it's just another example of him being immature, and they ignore the good things that he does. But then you hear stuff like, I was listening to Zach Lowe's podcast today, and he talked about that he's heard stories about DeMarcus Cousins that he wasn't going to repeat on air, but that just painted this really, really negative picture of not him as a player, but almost as a person. And so I was curious, what being kind of front and center for a lot of their games, do you see him as a good teammate or a bad teammate?
I see him as a good teammate. I see him take. I mean, I don't know. I wish I was a little closer so I could answer that question a little more thoroughly. I have only heard those bad stories. I've never actually experienced or been around anything like that myself. And it's honestly none of my business as a photographer. So
yeah. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I was curious about your personal opinion.
Sure. I guess what I would have to say about DeMarcus is the thing that never gets in the media is that after he leaves the locker room after every game, the only thing that I see him do is go over and pick up his toddler kid. So, that's never something that really gets reported, and so that's something that's like touching to me. That no matter what kind of game he has, no matter what happens on the court, he could have gotten ejected during the game. The first thing he does is go and take care of his child. So that's the kind of person he is. And if you think about it in that context, then maybe that's where that passion develops from. Now we can all argue about how you handle that and what's appropriate and so on and so forth. And DeMarcus can choose to listen to who he thinks is going to help him, but. You asked me to talk about what I see, and that's what I see. So
yeah, no, that's all we can expect. Trust me, we aren't disappointed that you aren't talking about how Boogie hit you to the top of the head with a chair. We
just want your context being close to the situation because I think a lot of fans are just genuinely interested in DeMarcus Cousins. I think he's inherently an interesting character.
Well, and also from listeners' standpoint to the podcast, Lakers fans are interested in finding out about the guy because there's so much rumors. For some reason, like we can't go. The Lakers and Kings can't play each other without at some point during the day. Hey, what do you think about Randall? And if the Lakers keep their third pick for Cousins, or something along those lines, and that's the kind of stuff that if all we hear about is how DeMarcus has these deep, dark secrets, and then the context that you can provide is that the dude is a good human being, that's useful information. So I have no problem whatsoever with the non-sizzling takes that you're providing, that you were hoping, or people might have been hoping for.
Yeah, and everybody around him has been around him for a long time, and so I think that's another aspect of loyalty that's to be respected. His manager is somebody that went to school with him, and has always got his back. And
Yeah.
to some of the press's detriment at times. So it's something that that I think deserves respect, but is just not talked about. And I'm not here to excuse anybody's behavior, but I'm also not going to like pass judgment on somebody where I see where his passion comes from, because I mean, you put yourself in that situation with your family and everything relying on that, on your performance as a basketball player, and you might feel targeted because you're 7 feet and 280, and you just knock the crap out of somebody. You don't think you fouled him because it doesn't feel like anything to you, So, but like I put myself, I put myself in his shoes. He just bullies through somebody and makes a shot, and then offensive foul. What I
barely touched him.
Yeah, like so. I don't know. It's there's a lot. It's like you said, he's a very complicated, and as everybody is, he's a very complicated person. I will say I really relate with him because we're both like from the country, and so I just put myself in his shoes. Like if I was 18 and then I went to school for 1 year, and then all of a sudden I was in an NBA spotlight, regardless of where it is. I mean, Sacramento is pretty mild, but I was in an NBA spotlight. And all of these people, millions of people, were consuming my daily life. That's pretty overwhelming. I mean, he's from when you're from a smaller community and you kind of put yourself through that mind process. It's like, maybe that's a little more challenging than I could handle. I know we're the same age. I know I couldn't deal with a lot of the stuff that he's had to deal with at the same age that he's had to deal with it. But experience is the best teacher, and that's the thing. He's going through all these trials now. You just wait till he's around 29, 30, and you see where he's at as a player. That's the DeMarcus that everybody's going to be saying. We're not going to ask about whether or not he can win a championship. We're going to ask about how many championships he's going to be on. So that's my feeling on it.
That's good stuff. All right, so we'll move off of Boogie. And we'll move off of. I shouldn't call him Boogie. I actually should call him DeMarcus. It's like I don't like calling Nick Young Swaggy, but I called DeMarcus Boogie. So we'll move off of DeMarcus Cousins and we'll talk about the Kings-Lakers rivalry, the Lakers-Kings rivalry, depending on your perspective. There aren't all that many highlights from the Kings' perspective, but take me back. All right, are you a lifelong Kings fan? Were you rooting for the team back when all that was going on?
I became a fan of sports in general in 1998. That was the first Super Bowl I watched. It was the Falcons and Broncos, and I was 9 years old at the time. So I'm 26 now. I was 9 years old at the time, and I just picked the team whose colors I like better. So I've been a Falcons fan since that time. And also, I was a huge fan of Michael Vick coming out of Virginia Tech, and when he went to the Falcons, it was just kind of like one of those things where you had a favorite player meet your favorite team, and it just kind of runs away. And that's where hearts are made in sports, And also, I'm from Northern California. I'm from a really small town called Forest Hill, about 100 miles north of Sacramento in the forest. And so the Kings are really the big show, And in 1999, when they became really good, that's when I became a fan of that team. So it became a compounding thing, one sport after the other. And everybody started playing basketball up here. That was the other crazy thing. When they got good, everybody wanted to play. So it benefited the kids because it certainly generated a lot of activity. And I don't remember the first Kings-Lakers series. I was too young. But I definitely remember 01-02, and that was that was again a really painful lesson in sports.
Yeah.
We all have our feelings about it, but when it comes down to Game 7, it came down to Game 7. So
yeah, I would say it's tough for me to call it a full-on rivalry because of how quickly the when it was at its hottest, the flame burned, sunshine bright, but then it just fizzled out way too quickly for me to call it, an extended rivalry. But those series.
But it was heated while it was going on.
Oh yeah.
Shaq dropping that quote on the bus. I don't want to talk about any Sacramento Queens. You had Phil Jackson calling them a cow town. The Ori game winner. The Vlade Divac said was a lucky shot.
They wanted to move. I know Shaq wanted to make Los Angeles the capital of California.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Is there anything in particular that sticks out to you above anything else, though? From those experiences, did you get to go to any of the games or anything like that?
I didn't get to go to any of the games. The Ori shot was painful. I think my little kid self-cried a little bit. But I definitely remember the Mike Bibby game winner as well, and how happy we felt up here. And for Sacramento, it is a different perspective. It is a big rivalry, and I have no shame in saying that because I think these things it's something to be cherished. The Lakers have been around for a really long time, and the Kings have been in Sacramento for 30 years now. So it's a shorter tenure. And when you have that shorter tenure and you haven't been good during that tenure, and when you are good, the other team that is good and matching your talent is in state and representative of an entirely different kind of personality as we see it,
Oh yeah, there was a lot of societal messages being sent across that rivalry. It's kind of funny to see that go on as well.
Yeah, and it happens today with the Warriors and Clippers in a way. So. I think those kind of rivalries in sports are healthy because it gives people a sense of regional pride. It gives people a sense of something to band together under. And for people in Sacramento, I do think it was a much bigger deal than it was for people in LA. But it's not a shameful thing at all. It's something to be proud of, I think, because of the short tenure and the short amount of time that they were ever good. And the fact that Sacramento showed out for their team for 25 years, or 28 years of sellouts, or something like that. It was that number I just pulled out. But
despite we'll say mixed results on the court.
It used to be what, Arco Arena? Before it was Sleep Train, it was Arco Arena, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. There was Arco 1, then there was Arco 2, and then it became Power Balance Pavilion. If you remember that mistake for a year.
Power Balance.
that little mistake, and then now it's Sleep Train, and then we'll be in the Golden One Center in the fall. And we're about to put up an extended gallery at Sacktown Royalty featuring the construction of that building. It's fantastic. We got a walkthrough a couple weeks ago,
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
That's really cool. That's some kind of opportunity. That's really cool because the Lakers are terrible with opening their doors to anybody other than like ESPN. But I didn't say that, or I said that. Harrison didn't say that. Who's trying to?
I've had nothing but positive experiences with Lakers PR. I don't know what you're talking about.
Harrison, do you have a favorite Sacramento Lakers rivalry moment? I put you on the spot, so I can go first if you want.
No, I mean, I feel bad because Kimani just said that it made little kid him cry, but if it makes you feel better, that Ori game winner, I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but me and my younger brother were running in circles on the third floor of our hotel, like outdoor balcony thing, just screaming after that shot for probably like a good 5 minutes. I think we probably did 1 or 2 laps around the hotel, just running around shirtless. Because Ori hit a game winner.
That's perfect. I understand the concept of duality, and we need balance, so that makes sense. For the tears I wept, I'm glad you had your laughter.
I have an even worse story about that same shot, I guess, and then we'll start to get out of here in a second. But the best man at my wedding, I won't say his name, but the best man at my wedding, my best friend since, we were 3 years old. He became a Kings fan. I didn't understand where the fandom came from. I never quite got it. He's from Southern California too, so I wasn't sure what was going on there. He became a Kings fan, and he became a Kings fan right as this rivalry was getting going. And he had just moved away to Arizona when the Vlade shot happened, when the Ori shot happened. And he had called me because the Kings, it looked like they had it won. There was no way. I think they had a slightly bigger lead, and then the Lakers hit a couple shots in a row. Something like that happened. But he called me when it didn't look very good, and was kind of rubbing it in like, hey, just want you to know, like, the Lakers have had a really good run, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't want to hear any of this right now, dude.
Consoling you before the game was over?
Right, yeah, he completely. So if any Kings fans out there want to find somebody to blame, you can go ahead, and I'm not going to give his information out there because it's just wrong. You can get his mentions would blow up, but the Ori shot happens, and I called him back, and I was going to be really nice about it. I'm just a super classy guy. I went to call him back, and his mom picked up the phone and said that Balin can't come to the phone right now. His arm is stuck in the wall, and he should probably go to the hospital pretty soon. So I just accidentally said his name. Sorry
he
about
put
that,
his
dude.
fist through a wall?
It was drywall, so I guess that helps. But
That's
Help
incredible.
the wall.
yeah, so that happened, and that's what you get. Like, you don't gloat before the game is over. Like that's the ultimate jinx job. You just don't do that. So
Would you say that he disrespected the game?
yeah, he had to sit. He had to ride the bench for a week or two. As
All
he
right,
recovered.
I do remember my favorite moment in the rivalry. I don't know if y'all remember this.
Mhm.
It wasn't in a playoff game, but it was just so bizarre. It's just a stupid game. It was just
Wasn't it
dumb.
like preseason? I think
It was regular season. Kobe had 50. Mike Bibby had 40.
Oh.
And Kenny Thomas had a triple-double. And Kenny Thomas is a really great guy. And, so it was just a bizarre game.
Mhm. Yeah, those even the regular season games felt like, not just because it's cliche to say that a regular season game feels like a playoff game. They felt like finals games. Like every time those teams got together, it was
Because they legitimately did not like each other.
yeah.
It wasn't like a just fan versus fan thing because both the teams were good at the same time. Those teams did not like each other.
Mhm.
Although, to be fair, there weren't a lot of teams that the Shaq and Kobe Lakers liked,
or vice versa.
or vice versa. They seemed to pretty much have beef with everybody.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that does it for tonight. I really appreciate you coming on, Kamani. Anything that you want to plug? You talked about the photos that are going up. When might those go up, and where might people find them?
You can find them on Sacktown Royalty. Now that I've plugged them, I have to put them up, right? So,
well, no, whenever they
they'll be
might
up by
be.
the end of the week. I can promise that.
Cool.
And then I had a question for y'all. Are you excited about the Rams?
I'm not.
No.
Not really. Like, I guess I'll see when Jeff Fisher is fired. That's when I'll start to feel a little bit more excited about it. I'm not really excited to root for an NFL team that's just perpetually 8-8. That's not going to go well.
You're a Vikings fan.
Well,
Wow.
we're not perpetually 8-8. We're either 3-13 or we're like
13-3.
Yeah, or we're 13-3, and then we get to like championship games and rip everybody's hearts out. So that's how that goes. But yeah,
Well, that's about it. The only thing that, I guess if you like what I had to say, you can follow me on Twitter at the Kimansta, KIMANSTA. And then also while you're there on the pinned tweet, there's a web series pilot that it's just 6 minutes. We're trying to get some feedback on it. So check that out and, let us know your thoughts.
All right, great stuff. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks, Harrison, for joining us as the co-host. I am Anthony Irwin, and yeah, we'll talk to everybody again on Friday when the Lakers play whoever they play. I'm still bad at that.
All right, y'all. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.